If you get recruited by a number of different schools, how do I remove the emotion, go through this process logically, and then make a logical decision? Do you think that when you ultimately chose Mississippi State, it was like, I can't really describe it, it just feels right?
On the logical side, it probably would have made more sense to go to Alabama, but it just felt right. I don't like when kids get rushed. I don't like when kids feel like they have to rush to make a decision. I'm grateful the NCAA instituted this new rule. It protects those young kids and it protects those coaches, man.
Everybody listening is going to hear me refer to you as Manny. That's because we go way back. I was fortunate enough to know you when you were a player back in the day. And like I was just telling you, it feels like you could still play, man. You could still move around a little bit.
And like I told you, I don't know about all that.
Right. Now, for everybody listening, we were just talking about the rigors of growing old. But one of the things I want to kind of jump into, so for everybody listening, not only are you somebody who's still around the game of baseball, but you actually were someone who played the game at the pro level. I want to talk about your career, but kind of before growing up. So we're the same age. We're both 44. When you were coming through high school, I know for me on the West Coast, we really didn't have travel baseball, right? It was like a lot of American Legion. And I remember there was one team in the Northern California area that was a travel baseball team, but it wasn't this thing that it is today. What was your experience like, at 16, 17, 18?
A lot different than it is today. A lot different than it was a couple years after I got out of college. For me personally, growing up in Oxford, Alabama, football number one. That's where we are. But with baseball, we would just have an American Legion team that was basically our high school team. That dad or granddad, we had a granddad, one of my best buddies that would coach us. His name was One Eye Fulton. Long story.
Shout out
One
to
Eye.
him.
Hey, One Eye's the man.
We'll have to send this to him.
Legend. He's such a legend. But no, he would coach us. We had a blast. We would go play any other American Legion team, which I never quite understood the league or whatever.
Right.
But we'd drive to Birmingham. We go to just across the state line where we are in Oxford is about 30 minutes from the Georgia-Alabama state line. And I don't know exactly when East Cobb kind of the whole travel ball circuit started taking off. I know it had started then, but I didn't know anything about it. And so, at 16, 17 years old, we play 30, 35 games in high school, and then in the summer we play another 20, 25 games, and then it'd be on to football.
Right.
So it's a totally different setup than
Do you
it is
remember
now.
Chad Durbin?
I do.
Yeah, so funny story. So I'm obviously an agent at the time. Chad Durbin was one of our clients. And I was out eating with him one day, and he told me about his idea towards the tail end of his career, and it was essentially what Perfect Game has become. This travel baseball thing is starting to pick up. I want to create kind of an organization that puts all these games together. And I remember at the time thinking like, well, that sounds like a lot of work. Like, I'm not sure how you're going to do this. And then it's funny because now fast forward to look to see what actually Perfect Game and some of these other organizations have become. I mean, it's truly all encompassing, right? So back in high school, obviously you played a lot of American Legion ball. As you were going through kind of, figuring out what you were going to do at the next level, where you wanted to go, you ended up at Mississippi State, but what were the colleges that you were considering? What was that like?
For me, I'm the fourth of five boys. My dad was a college football coach at Jacksonville State. My older brothers were athletes and played. I was fortunate when I was a freshman and sophomore in high school to get to play shortstop next to my older brother, Tony, who was a junior and senior those 2 years. He played second base, so it was super cool. He went to Jacksonville State to play. He got a scholarship to play there. For me, kind of growing up, I didn't know. I mean, you don't, nowadays, 11 and 12-year-olds are told how good they are. I knew I was a solid player, but I was always fighting to be the best player in the city parks and the city leagues. And there was always somebody bigger, faster, stronger than me. And so I was always just fighting. I was a younger brother too. So I'm just fighting to get scraps at the table, that kind of mindset. But I remember coming up through, I remember the first time I was kind of thinking about, man, it'd be really cool if I could go to like an Alabama, Birmingham, UAB. It was only an hour from home. I didn't know anything about it, but I just, it was no way for us to get educated on colleges, and the SEC was all around. Alabama was really strong at the time. Auburn was solid. I didn't know what I didn't know at the time, and then I had a couple of, breakout seasons. My sophomore year kind of had a good season in high school, and then had a good summer. A couple of bigger schools, Alabama, Auburn, started kind of reaching out with some letters and that kind of stuff. That's how old I am. I remember thinking, like, in my head, I'm one of those guys, I was thinking, like, am I really good enough to play at that level? Like, I don't know what those baseball players look like. Because I was still, I mean, I was a quarterback in football, and I loved it equally to baseball. I really did. So it kind of started it. And then I got told how, you start getting told how good you are. And if you believe it, then you won't make it very far. And I never really believed the hype. But for me, the big break was I had to make a really tough decision after my junior summer. I got invited to the East Coast Pro workout, which back in the day, there weren't the tryouts. It was just you got invited by a scout, you went straight to Wilmington, North Carolina, and it was 7 or 8 teams of just dudes.
Yep.
And we were the Mets. I was number 55. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I remember just being like, I didn't know I was short until I got to that. I didn't know I was going to be on the shorter end. That's how naive I was. But I got to that, and there were just athletes everywhere, bigger, faster, stronger, and went there and ran a good 60 time, had a solid arm, had good rounds of BP. I remember 90 now, my 14, 15-year-old kids in the program, they're 90, it's okay. 90 then, we had never seen it. I mean, It looked like a ping pong ball coming in there to me. And I faced it every single at bat, and all these guys were trying to throw, as hard as they could, and I got hit a bunch. I didn't think I swung the bat very well, but I remember some coaches telling my dad, like, hey, I think the day was maybe August 1st. I don't remember exactly. They said, hey, on that day, he's going to start getting tons of letters and calls and all this stuff. And I still didn't really believe it because I didn't think I played that well at it. But that was where Mississippi State happened to be there. I didn't know much about them. Coach Tommy Raffo was the guy who introduced himself to my dad, one of the best human beings I've ever met. But I still wasn't sure where I was going to go. And so then my dad, being college football coach, looked at me and said, you will take all 5 of your official visits.
Good for him.
You will not tell any of these schools that you're committing to them until you take all 5 of your visits. So we did. And, Mississippi State was in there because of Tommy Raffo, the conversations. He was a great guy. Ended up coming down to Mississippi State and Alabama for me. Coach Mitch Gaspard was one of the main reasons I was considering Alabama and think the world of him. And so I narrowed it down, but then, man, it took me a while. It took me about a month to try to figure it out because I was blown away when I went to Starkville. I've never been there in my life. If you haven't been there, they treated baseball like we treat football in the state of Alabama, and it blew me away. I didn't know so many people would show up to a college baseball game. And Coach Pat McMahon was the head coach, Coach Jim Case, Coach Tommy Raffo, Coach Ron Polk was the assistant athletic director at the time. And man, it just kind of blew me away, and it felt right, but I couldn't believe I was about to just go over to Mississippi. I didn't know anything about that state. I mean, I'd never really spent any time over there. And man, when I tell you, I'm grateful that my dad made me take all my visits. I'm grateful that nobody pressured me into a quick decision because, it gave me time to pray about it, to talk to my family. They wouldn't give me any advice. I kept looking at my mom and dad.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, I was like, hey, what do you guys think about that? I was like, hey, wherever you want. And they told me straight up, they were like, hey, financially, we can handle whatever. Man, I'm the 4th of 5 boys. We didn't have money.
Right.
And so I wanted to get the biggest scholarship for my family to make it easier. And fortunately, the offers were the exact same. And that was fortunate, but then it was unfortunate because it made my decision even harder between the two.
Sure.
And so, like I said, a lot of thought and prayer, and decided that Mississippi State was the right choice. And it was kind of crazy though. Like Alabama was kind of wide open on the infield. They had lost Andy Phillips, who was an All-American. He was a senior of the year. It was kind of wide open. Mississippi State had a senior coming back at shortstop, second, and third, like each one of those positions. And I just kind of was like, I wasn't trying to look for, hey, a handout of like, I'm guaranteed to get to play. I wanted to go earn it. And that's how I made that decision.
Do you feel like part of that was, because one of the things that I've always tried to help guys understand is there's so much emotion going on when you make these decisions, right? So if you get recruited by a number of different schools, you're trying to like, okay, how do I remove the emotion, go through this process logically, and then make a logical decision? Do you think that when you ultimately chose Mississippi State, it was like, I can't really describe it, it just feels right?
Yeah, it was a lot of that because they're really, like, if you started thinking logically, Alabama.
Right, you'd say Alabama with the opportunity.
The opportunity to come in. I mean, they had all coaches tell you this, but they had said, hey, you would be the front runner for shortstop. Mississippi State said I was a huge prospect and they wanted me and all that stuff, but I wasn't stupid. Travis Chapman, who was an All-American, he's first base coach for the Yankees now. He had played short the year before and hit 400. And so I was like, I'm not sure I'm going to go into the SEC and hit 400 right out the gate. But I think on the logical side, it probably would have made more sense to go to Alabama, but it just felt right. And that's what I don't like when kids get rushed. I don't like when kids feel like they have to rush to make a decision. And that's why I'm really grateful over my time of doing what I've done, since playing pro ball and starting the baseball academy. I'm grateful the NCAA instituted this new rule where they can't be. The August 1st, that's the best thing they've done since I've been in this position where I am. The August 1st after your junior, your 16-year-old summer. It protects those young kids and it protects those coaches, man. Everybody looks at like the kids as a villain or the coaches as a villain. Man, they're all put in really tough positions. Like if you're a coach and you don't go after these 14-year-olds who are studs, somebody else is, and you're going to miss out on them. And so I think it's a great rule that has helped these kids be more mature, another year more mature to make a wiser decision and to, where they want to go and, get their degree and play the game of baseball.
Well, and we've all kind of heard of the numbers where, back in the day when you could actually commit kids when they were in 8th grade and 9th grade, you would see these kids commit at that age. And then, 3-4 years later, it's, they got decommits because the coach is gone or, the player hasn't developed quite like they expected. And so, yeah, it became apparent that it's not necessarily what's best for the kids to be able to commit them that early. And to your point, it's also not best for the schools. I don't think anybody looked at that and enjoyed that process. So I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, I always feel for those coaches, like college baseball coaches, when a kid has to be, released or his scholarship offer cut or, he has to decommit. Everybody goes after the college and they immediately go after those coaches. And man, they are in such an awful spot with all the changes happening now, but with the lack of scholarships, the rosters changes constantly. They truly don't know exactly what they're going to have. And now these guys, I feel for them. I think their jobs are some of the hardest jobs in America.
Undoubtedly.
I truly, and I think that I don't like when people act like, man, they're awful. I can't believe they quit on that boy. The truth is, it's just like if, like I tell my kids, if you're in a relationship with somebody and you think it might not work out, you need to go ahead and do that then. You're trying to be nice and hold on to it, but the truth is, if you truly respect them, end it now.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to do that, and that's what those college coaches and those colleges have to do. But it really frees up these players to be able to go and play and get into a better situation than what they were going to have.
Well, and so when you were coming through too, when you committed to a college, the expectation was, and you may have thought of pro ball at that point, which I'd love to get into, but you're still thinking okay, I'm going to commit to a school and I'm going to be there for the next however many years. Where today it seems like, all right, it's kind of free agency. I'm committing to a place really for 1 year. And that goes both ways too.
Yeah, it does.
Right? From the player, it's, okay, I'm committed to this place. And let's just say it's a smaller school because I don't have an opportunity to go to the SEC. But if I go to this smaller school and perform well, then my chance to go to the SEC only grows after that. And it's almost like certain conferences become development for maybe a bigger conference. So I don't even think we've seen, 5 years into the future, I feel like we could be looking at something so much different. And so especially with the NIL piece, there's going to be so much that starts to develop that, the one thing that I can tell you as a constant is the college game is certainly a business.
Yeah.
Would you describe your experience in college? Did you feel like it was a business for you then?
No, not at all.
No?
Not at all. I don't want to sound like the old salty guy or anything like that. I do hate it for kids, and I hate it for fans too, that, when you have some freshman coming in that's supposed to be good and he can contribute early, that you're going to get to see him for at least 3 years, maybe even 4, if the draft doesn't work out after the junior year. In today's world, when you start putting money into it, you start involving money, it's not so much an amateur sport anymore. Mm-hmm. And you can't blame the kids. You can't blame kids for if somebody's out offering more money than where he is, or if he's at a smaller school but he's performing and then knows he can get paid and get to a bigger, higher level to possibly help himself in the draft. You can't blame them. You can't. That's what, for me, it was I knew when I was going there, hey, this is where I'm going to be. Hopefully, my goal was to be there for 3 years. Ended up, I was so good, they left me there for 4.
Right.
And so, for me, I knew I was going to be there. I got asked when all the NIL stuff started happening, the portal started happening, a lot of coaches, so we talked to a lot of coaches just about our kids and stuff. And they'd be like, hey, man, they're talking about how big of a mess it is for them. And like, what would you have done? Would you have left Mississippi State? And I said, well, and the truth, I mean, those guys were incredible guys. So I don't think they would have ever done me or any of our guys wrong. But if they were put into a bad position, I understand. But for me, I mean, I was pretty highly touted coming in. So I probably would have gotten some decent money to come in as a freshman, started every game as a freshman, was a freshman All-American, probably would have gotten more money. Was a preseason first-team All-American going into my sophomore year. And back in the day, that was the year that you kill it your sophomore year, you go to the Cape, you kill it, you make some money the next year. So that was my goal. That's what I was going to do. And so, they probably would have given me more money that year and came out and started out on a 10-game hit streak and then opted out of hitting for the rest of the year, man. I was trying to hit 350 with 10, and I ended up hitting 235 with none.
Wow. And
I played every game, and I felt like I was hurting my team, but they believed in me. And defensively, I had a really, really good year. I think led the country in fielding percentage, whatever. But I felt like I was hurting my team because I was scuffling. I was trying so much. It was never, even when I'd hit a single in my head, I was like, I should have driven that ball to the gap. That's got to be a double or a homer. It's got to be extra bases. It was never good enough, so I was constantly just trying, making the game harder than it should have been. So, like I tell everybody, probably would have been getting paid a lot of money my sophomore year, and then I didn't produce on the field. So I would have either gotten my money chopped or I would have gotten chopped, and then if they cut my money, it probably would have hurt my feelings, so I probably would have jumped in the pool. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm grateful I didn't have that.
Right.
I'm grateful that it wasn't around. I mean, like I said, I don't know who. There's no certain party to blame. Not the kids. It's not the coaches. It's just as an entire organization, like with NCAA, kind of trying to police this thing. It's just kind of the wild, wild west.
It really is.
To be honest, it's crazy.
It's almost like this constantly ever-evolving organism that is just going to take shape and change and grow and adapt. And I don't know that anybody can truly steer the ship. There are some people I think that would say it's better now than it was before. There are others that would say, no, it was much better before than it is now. The one constant, though, as I will say, as I think about this, is players today at least are able to capitalize at a level that they definitely weren't able to before. But with that comes, a ton of growing pains too, right? Like just speaking about football for a moment, the quarterback at Tennessee who ended up going to UCLA, like, people I'm sure could criticize him for how he handled that. Other people may say, hey, it was his right. He should do that. So there's not a right or a wrong answer, but I do just think, for those that are coming behind all the players today that are currently in college, I think it's even more reason why when you have people like you running organizations, how it's no longer just about teaching them about baseball. It's really helping them kind of make life decisions. And making sure, as you said, is what your parents allowed you to do, which is like, don't rush it. Take your time. Make sure you have the advice and education and guidance. It's an overwhelming thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Think about when you were making the decision on college. Yeah, throw into that. Oh, by the way, this school's offering you $50,000. This school's offering you $100,000. This school's offering you nothing. Where does that come into play?
I'm very grateful for what my parents did for us. I know, like I said, we didn't have money. I didn't realize that our house was so tiny until I drive back, up there, and I realized there were 5 boys and 2 parents in that house. But like, to me, it was plenty big enough.
Right.
Everything we had was awesome. We had a sodded backyard, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And but if it was something like that where I could have helped my parents financially, because you got to think, they had 3 of us driving, useful drivers. So like just insurance alone, when you start thinking about insurance, you start thinking about providing cars, all that stuff. I know it was a stretch, and I was always so grateful to my parents for that if somebody would have offered me an extra $25,000 on top of, even if I thought this school might be a better fit for me, I don't know how I would have turned that down.
Right.
To be able to say, hey, mom and dad, I got this. I'll pay for my car. You don't have to pay for gas. Like, I don't know how I would have turned it down. I really don't.
So going into professional baseball, so you obviously end up signing. You get drafted in the 8th round in 2003?
Yep.
Okay, so you end up getting drafted by the Rays. funny enough, the Rays had just became a major league organization a handful of years before. So you enter an organization where I went back and I looked, it was like there was a different scouting director for like 3-4 years in a row, a different GM, at the very beginning of your career. So as you start with this organization, was pro ball what you expected?
The part of it that I didn't enjoy as much was where it turned me and everybody around me into, man, I got to go 1 for 3 with a walk and get my average up, get my on-base percentage up, make the plays defensively, and then get the heck out of this level and go to the next level. And it took the emphasis off of the scoreboard. And for me, when I look back on it, I feel like you could ask so many ball players that are finished playing, you ask them what they miss about it. Would they go out? Would you go back and play? For me, I'd go back and play high school. I'd go back and play college baseball. Right now, if you told me I had to go play minor league baseball, I'd be like, okay. But it's only because baseball is a team sport where it's bigger than one individual. It always has been, always will be. And when a team comes together and everybody puts all the individual accolades and stats, out of their mind, and all they focus on is that scoreboard and competing against the other team, that is the most fun you will have on a baseball field at any level. It doesn't matter if it's junior high, high school, travel ball, college, whatever. And so I do have some regrets on how I went into professional baseball, and I kind of got stuck in. We were playing 140 games in 150 days, and I played almost all of them every year. I maybe have like 4 games off every year. And it's hard. You could have a great day, feel like you got it all figured out, and the very next day you come out and you're like, I feel like I've never swung a bat before. And so it kind of made me think about myself more than I ever had in my life, and I didn't enjoy that.
Right.
It kind of took the purpose of the game and the fun of the game. And I'm not saying, look, professional baseball, I met so many great dudes that I still keep in contact with. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I'm telling you it's a regret that I have more than anything. But pro ball, it provided awesome competition. The baseball community, I know you know this. You've been around it for a while now. It's crazy how intertwined like we all are, and from scouts to agents to coaches to players to it's amazing the contacts, and it's such a cool thing. It's a close unit that can it provides relationships for the rest of my life, and I'm very appreciative of that. I think I wasn't ready for that pro ball.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody really is.
Yeah.
Right. I asked a client actually in spring training, funny enough, who's playing with the Tampa Rays right now, and this guy's bounced around. Spent 10 years in the minor leagues before he got to the big leagues. And I asked him, I said, his name is Jamie. I said, Jamie, taking you back to the 18-year-old kid who was signing out of high school, what could I have told you back then that would have saved you so much time and energy trying to learn all these lessons by yourself? And the point wasn't, there's one little thing I could tell you, and then it's like, I drank the Kool-Aid and now I understand. But he had just finished talking about how he learned so many valuable lessons. And obviously for me, it's like, okay, I want to deliver that to you earlier before you have to, sacrifice and go do all this stuff. Is there anything I could have said? And he's like, oh man, I got to think about this. And he ended up literally telling me I don't know, let me think about it and I'll get back to you. And to be honest with you, I never thought he was going to get back to me on it. I thought this was just something he'd be like, yeah, I don't know. He ends up calling me back about 2 weeks later and he says to me, he goes, Matt, I think if you would have told me, don't worry about, and this is going to sound funny, don't worry about the performance on the field. Be okay if baseball wasn't in your life. Try to find confidence in yourself without baseball, and then baseball will become so much easier to deal with. Now, imagine saying that to an 18-year-old kid and that actually resonating, yeah, right. He would have told me, you're crazy, man. No, baseball's the only thing I have. But it was such an interesting point because here's somebody who's now 30 years old who's learned all these lessons and recognizes now, having learned that one lesson, he is able to show up to the field and play so much more free and easy, no longer just killing himself because of the result. And I think it's funny that, he's got a family now, he's got a wife and a son, and I think that plays into it too, right? And specifically speaking about you, obviously you've been married for a long time. I was fortunate enough to know your wife, and where did she come into the picture as far as because I know how important your family is to you. At what point did you start to see the benefits of having a family so that when you went home from the game, you're like, oh man, I can like block some of this
So
stuff out.
you're starting to go down a road that I'm very passionate about, and I get to still be involved with a lot of players that are in pro ball that came through our organization, and trying to explain to them that you give it everything you've got. You go out when you go to work, you give everything, all the focus, everything off the field goes away when you're on, in the weight room, working out, BP, early BP, all the extra work that you do. But when it's over, it's over. And I try to help these kids understand that earlier. The sooner you can understand that, and that's really cool of your client, like it is such a mental grind. It's not, everybody talks about the physical side of it, but it's the mental grind that knowing your self-worth outside of baseball, for me, it was my faith and my family. That was why being finished with baseball never scared me. Like, it never scared me. My wife, I mean, dude, I don't even know where to start. Like, you talk about, she was my first date when I was 15. She was 16. She came to Mississippi State with me. She was a year older than me. Once I signed there in November, she transferred from Jacksonville State to Mississippi State. So she technically got there before me. Tells everybody I followed her, which is a joke. Absolute joke. That doesn't work for me. And so I spent time with her. And then my senior year in college, she had gotten a job in Birmingham. And when I got drafted, the very next day, I got engaged to her. Bought a ring that next day. Got engaged. We had been dating for almost 8 years, I believe it was. And I told her, I was like, I'm going to be going to spring training, St. Pete, and going to wherever they send me, which I thought was going to be out in California. And I was like, I really would love for you to come with me, but I'm not going to ask you to give up your career. And she was like, no, I'd rather come with you. She gave up her career for me.
Wow.
I made a mental note, didn't tell her this, but I was like, she'll never work another day in her life unless she wants to. And I meant that. And to this day, it's, if she wants to work, she can work. I will go work an extra job if I have to support our family. But she was there, like, she knows the grind, man. It's so unique what she's gotten to experience that, we're out in the Cali League playing in Bakersfield, which is a beautiful, beautiful place that was very nice to play. It was tough. I went from the SEC, Mississippi State, to Bakersfield, California. And Bakersfield, the facilities, the buses, all the stuff, it was not just one step backwards, it was a lot of steps back. And, she came out there with me. Well, man, she was on my insurance because she didn't have a job. And so every 2 weeks, we got paid twice a month. I think my first couple checks were like $300 each. Mm-hmm. And the rent was $1,000 out there. And so, next thing I know, she's she double majored in 4 years at Mississippi State. She had a real job, and she's voluntarily working at Tahoe Joe's out in California, out in Bakersfield. So it was a steakhouse. And she'd make more in one night than I would in my, couple of weeks. And I just I felt a little bit of guilt, to be honest. But she was such a thoughtful, selfless person that made it where, man, I'm not going to be selfish when I go 0 for 4 with 3, the hat trick and, 3 K-burgers and coming back to the house and pouting and not talking. And, man, it made it where it was so much easier on me. And I'm so grateful that she was able to come with me to each level. My final year, we had our daughter, Emerson, who just graduated high school, is going to college at Alabama Huntsville next year. I was in the middle of a road trip in AAA. And had 5 more days in Rochester, New York. We were in Syracuse, and it just hit me one day. I was like, I think it's time.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
I had a good spring training, went to AAA for my second year, and was in the middle of a 10-day roadie in Syracuse, and it just kind of hit me where I was like, man, I feel like we need to go live in that house that we're paying for back home, and I think we need to start moving forward. I'm not one of those that has excuses. I'm not that guy who's going to say, hey, man, I was going to make to the big leagues, but blew out my shoulder. It's none of that stuff. There's no excuses. I might have gotten a chance, but the way I looked at it was, it wasn't about just getting there. It was, I got to stay there to support and it made me, the sad truth of it is, minor league baseball then, which is way better now, it kind of starved us so much where my main focus was getting to the big leagues to support my family financially. It took it out of just, hey, I want to be a big leaguer. It wasn't like that. for me. I had to get there to support my family because I just felt like I was kind of holding them back. And she'll kill me for saying this, but I mean, it really did. It played a factor in it. And I called her and told her, hey, give me a flight back home from Rochester. And the only thing she said was, promise me it's not about money. And I was like,
Yeah.
kind of the leader of this family I'm trying to support. And so I told her, I was like, it's just, the game's not what it was. And it's not a status thing. I don't have to play a day in the big leagues to say I'm a big leaguer. I was like, man, I'm proud of everything I've done. It's been awesome. I'm ready to start moving forward with our family and whatever the next phase is.
Well, and that's why this is why I'm so vocal about faith too, because I wonder how you would have handled that situation if you weren't a man of faith.
No, not even close.
Right.
Like that's the one constant. My parents growing up, priority number one, your relationship to God.
Uh-huh.
Nothing else mattered. That was the key to me. I mean, everything I've ever accomplished. I mean, what I've accomplished earlier today, whatever it may be, is all because of my faith. And if that hadn't have been kind of ingrained into me by the way my parents lived and the way that they tried to help us focus on our faith, I can't even imagine. I just can't imagine life without that. I really can't.
I think about how many players today that are faced with some of the same stresses. They got to pro ball. It was always their dream. They spent a handful of years in the minor leagues, and they're getting to a place in their career where, as you say, the business side of it really starts to take hold, right? And somebody like you who went to a really good college and you had that team environment and you truly felt like you were responsible for your role in the performance of that team, to get to pro ball and then to experience kind of the flip side of baseball as a business. And I think about guys who maybe hang on a little bit too long, right? And then you see them later and you see how, whether that's, look, everybody's journey is their journey. I'm certainly not saying one is right and one is wrong. But I've had to have many conversations with guys who, they've now had a family, they've gotten to a point, maybe they're in their 30s now, and then they go to independent ball. And I think one of the things that really I just want to make sure that I talk to guys about is, getting back to what I'd call pro ball, like if you're in independent ball, getting back to affiliated baseball, like that journey's a tough one. Mm-hmm. And let's just say you're even lucky enough to go to independent ball and then get back into pro ball or get back into affiliated ball. It's not as if like, oh, you're back, so like just go play, you're going to get every day at bats and like keep doing well and you're going to get a shot. I mean, the game is getting younger and younger, so these organizations evaluate you, and age is a huge component, one of the biggest components. And so I do think about, with what you've shared, how so many other players would benefit by hearing this. And that's why I brought up the faith, because I think for those who maybe aren't men of God or have a faith, I can understand why it would be really scary. Like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Right? Like, my identity is wrapped up in me being a baseball player. I'm not shutting it down.
Yeah. I always felt, I wouldn't say sorry, but, I played with guys who were older. And I remember when I first started, I realized there were 30-year-olds in AA. And I kind of was in shock. I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And I remember telling my wife, Kim, I was just like, hey, I'm not going to be 30 in AA. Trust me. Where I got nervous was me being a defensive shortstop who was just steady on shortstop. I mean, offensively, I needed work constantly, just constantly working on offense. But defensively, it was pretty easy, and I was pretty steady, and they knew I could play any infield position and all that stuff. I started looking at some of those older guys that were in AA and AAA that had never been in the big leagues or had gotten a cup of coffee in the big leagues, and they were always catchers and infielders, like really mainly shortstops, defensive shortstops. Because it helps just, having, those guys are always going to be the leaders. They're going to be the guys that know what to do. They're going to show younger guys how to play and be professional. And that was when I saw that, and it kind of scared me, where I was like, man, I hope they don't think I'm one of these guys that has to be playing professional baseball because it's my full identity. It's not. And, and I played with guys, and like some of those guys you were talking about who go to indie ball and then trying to get back. Man, I respect the heck out of those guys.
Sure.
The amount of determination, the amount of just grit that it takes to do that, because those are not, that's not a pretty job. None of that stuff is. And I always just hope, anytime I'd ever hear that, I hope it's not because we're scared of the real world. Life after baseball, equally as awesome.
Right.
It really is. If you have a foundation, faith in God, a solid family, it is so much fun, and there's so many challenges, and there's so many things that I get asked all the time. You miss it, don't you? I was like, I don't miss it. I was like, I miss the camaraderie with a lot of the guys, but I get to keep in touch with them.
Yeah.
If I'm a good friend, I'm keeping in touch. I was like, as far as like, I did what I did. I mean, it is what it is, and I can't go back and change anything, and I don't have any regrets. I do try to, some of the stuff that I wish I would have maybe thought about or learned at a younger age, trying to help pass it on. Now, this is where the blessing for me is Excel Baseball.
Well, so I'm glad you brought that up because I want to jump into your guys' organization.
I mean, dude, 2003, my best friend, Josh Beshears, was pitching an indie ball. Short right-handed pitcher who shoved
He's
all
gonna be
through
mad at you
college.
for calling him short.
It's okay. He knows. So he shoved all through college, doesn't get a chance with affiliated team. Goes to Kalamazoo, Michigan. All right. I come back from Charleston with the Rays. I'm like, dude, I got to get a job. I'm about to get married. I've got to have money. I didn't realize that we weren't going to make money in minor league ball. Like, we're going to lose money.
Uh-huh.
And so we start looking. I interview with a couple people, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm about to do a 8 to 5 job that I'm not interested in. And then he looks at me. He had talked to some guys up where he was playing, and he was like, hey, I think we could do some lessons. I was like, man, nobody would pay for lessons. What are you talking about? See, it's just a world I didn't know. And man, we put some flyers in the little middle school folders, and we're packed from day one. And it's been the biggest blessing for me because, and it's one of the reasons I can tell you, hey, I don't miss the game, because I get to try to help and guide and be a part of these kids who are chasing their dreams. And when I tell you, it is more rewarding helping somebody else than it is, any individual accolades that you have. It has been the biggest blessing for me because I'm still involved in the game that I love, and I get to still be involved in young men's, journeys of trying to do the best they can through this game.
So you guys have how many different teams, like age-wise?
So we started out with just one team, a 17-year-old team. That was in 2009. And the truth is, I didn't know enough about it. I told you I grew up in Legion ball. I got out of the game in, I think, 08, right around 08. And then Josh and my other buddy I played with at Mississippi State, Steve Gendron, he was with the Marlins organization. He had moved up there and did lessons in the offseason. And then he had gotten out of the game. Both of them had gotten out of the game a year before me. And they were like, hey, we need to put together a team. And I was like, man, I don't believe in that stuff. I was, just that hard old school, just like, man, you don't need that. If you're good, like my dad always said, if you're good enough, they'll find you.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I don't believe in that. I'm not doing it. I don't want to be a part of it. You guys knock yourselves out. Like, any money you make, I don't want it. Like, just do. Well, then I went and watched them, and I was at virtually every game that summer, and I was just in shock. I didn't know that colleges, that's how they recruited. I had no idea. This is 2008, I think. And I was just kind of in shock. And I was like, man, that is something that provides for these kids. Like, this is the way of the world now. I didn't know that colleges didn't recruit high school during the high school season hardly at all. So that's how we started it. Then I started a 15-year-old team the next year. So we just went 2 teams for a couple years. And we slowly got up to right at 10 teams. Now, we've been at 10 teams for probably 5 or 6 years. We are in the minority of, if your check clears, you don't have a spot on our team. If we don't have the right person coaching, if we don't have a good man, good leader who knows the game, we're not going to create a team. And if just because we have 15 kids that just want to play for our organization, if we don't feel like it's a good product or we can put something out that we will be proud of, that will be good for those kids, we're not going to do it. So we still cut a lot of kids every year. And I know it hurts feelings, but we're being honest with people. Like, hey, we could take your money and your kid could be the 13th, 14th, 15th player and never get to play, but we just don't. And fortunately for us, we all have our big boy jobs. We all own businesses on our own. And then this is just like something that we do because we absolutely love it. We do make money from it. I'm not sitting here saying we don't profit from it, but that's not why we do it. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
Like it's been a huge blessing, and a lot of the kids that we've been able to come in contact with, it's way bigger than myself and Josh from that, September of 2003 when we started it. It was us that started it. We were bigger than Excel. Excel is way bigger than us. It impacts so many more than I ever dreamed it would. It's been a blessing.
How do you guys reconcile, when I think about it from my standpoint, right? Like, I'm in a business that on the surface, people are like, oh, agents, can't be trusted. And I feel like in the travel baseball world, there's a lot of the same stuff, like, oh, you're a travel baseball organization. Yeah, you're just trying to take our money and send us to tournaments. How do you guys ensure that, I mean, knowing you, I'm not worried that you're doing those things. I'm more worried about, like, how do you convey the messaging to families that are maybe have a preconceived notion about you?
I mean, that's a great question. I think that the truth is always going to be action above words. Anybody can say anything.
Right.
I can sit here and tell you how great we are and how perfect we are, and we're going to treat every kid equally, and we're going to do great, and every kid's going to love it. I could say whatever I want to. And a lot of people believe what they want to believe. We try to educate. I think educating parents, educating kids from the beginning of, like, when we get told, hey, we want him to be a shortstop on, we want him to be your starting shortstop. We're like, we're not giving that to anybody. Like, you've got to earn it. Once you earn it, yeah, it's yours. And we go about it in an old school manner of, we'll tell them everybody's going to get their opportunities. We have small rosters. People are shocked that I'll come out here to Cary right now, and people are shocked that I have 11 position players. And they're just like, I don't know how you do that.
Right.
And I'm like, all I need is 9. I mean, they let us hit 11, but I mean, if I don't want to hit 11, if I think a guy doesn't give us the best chance, or I'd rather rest him for the next guy, whatever it may be, I would rather have a smaller roster. If injuries happen, we're able to, we've got enough connections to do it. But to talk about, I think it really is about action, being the guys that, when you say something, when we tell the parents in our parent meeting before the summer, hey, this is what you can expect from us. This is what you can expect from the recruiting side. This is what you can expect from whatever it may be, what we're going to demand of each kid and how we're going to act. And then holding ourselves accountable. And then holding everyone else accountable. I think that's the way that, and then our whole business for the last 22 years has been a word of mouth. And so, like, I think that word of mouth has kind of gotten out where it's like hey, they're not like everybody where they're going to, have a ton of teams and they're going to, go out there and just play some guy's kid because he makes more money than this other guy. Because we don't care who you are. We've had big leaguers whose kids play for us. And if you're not good enough, you're not going to be out there. If it's a situation, a playoff game or something, we're going to play the best ones because that's real life.
Yeah.
And it teaches kids bigger than just having, something handed to them. So on the agent side, I understand completely. That's, it's kind of the same thing. I think it's about action and people, like, doing their research, getting to know guys and understanding, talk to the guys that you represented. Talk to some that don't like you. Talk to some that do like you. You find out everything you can, because on the agent side of things, everybody looks out, like they're almost like ambulance chasing lawyers or bloodsuckers or anything like that. Man, you guys are trying to do the best you can at what your job is, and that's representing these players. And it's a lot of good guys that kind of get a bad rap more than anything. And now there are some, just like with us.
Of course.
There are some people that you don't really want your name associated with. I definitely have some in my field that I'm not interested in being, oh, he's a travel ball guy like so-and-so.
Yeah.
And I'm not. I don't enjoy that, and I'm sure you have the same thing.
Oh, no question. I've always said too, it's like, and I love what you said about it's all about action. But as far as the agent thing goes, it's like, I think every agent gets into the business with the right intentions. I don't think someone's like, I want to be an agent so I could take advantage of people.
Yep.
But it's really a matter of, like, what does the business become for you? Is it just a way to make money? Because in the travel baseball world, same thing applies. If you're in the travel baseball world as an organization or a coach, just to make money, then that is going to lead you to do certain things.
It shows.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so over time, you start to see, like, oh, okay, this guy's different. He does it different. We've given him plenty of opportunities, and he's come through every single time. How do you guys handle the development piece? Is it like, you guys have individual player plans? How does that whole thing work?
I think each one is different. Like where we are, we're not in a huge city. So we don't have for the level that we would like to play, with our teams, like, we have to go out basically throughout the state. And so for us, I think each one is different. Obviously, if it's a local, we have an indoor facility. We've had it since '03, and we get in there and get after it and have all that. But ultimately, in today's world, I mean, you can kind of, depending on where you are, there are people who can help you get to whatever level you want to on the individual training side, the off-season stuff. Now, when it boils down to like when our seasons are starting, which we don't mess with our kids. We tell our kids, and this is something we believe in, and we tell everybody, and we do mean it. Any kids that sit there and go, man, you know, I don't even really like high school ball. I'm ready for travel ball. Those aren't the kind of kids we're looking for. Because high school ball is about a community. It's more about what's on the front of the jersey. It's about playing for something, the guys that played before you at that high school who helped lay the foundation and the guys that are going to come after you. It's more about the big picture, not about just individual players. I think everything that high school baseball is meant for and is about is what baseball should be. I do. Travel baseball, we try our hardest to get our kids to buy into the same type of mindset where we tell them now, like, hey, man, we started this thing in '03. Those guys laid the foundation for you to be able to, you know, go to Lake Point, to be able to go to Hoover, to be able to go to Cary, wherever we're maybe going, like, and have a reputable name that people respect. I mean, we're not going to always just walk out there with the best talent. We're never going to be the most talented teams, but they know that we're blue collar and that we're going to try and get after it and all that. And so those kids that you're just all about travel ball, it tells me it kind of hurts because I'm like, man, are they more interested in their player ranking? Are they more interested in their own individual accolades? You know, we try to tell all our kids, like, when we have a weekend, if you bat 1,000, that's awesome. That means we'll probably won some games. But if you put out a tweet or you make a post on Instagram and all it is your individual stats and it doesn't say anything about our team and how we did, if we went 0-4 or 4-0, it better say something about your team, or else you know your priorities aren't right. Your mindset's not right, because it's not. This game is so much more fun when you play for your teammates in the front of the jersey. I know that's cliche, but I mean it. It really is more fun when you play for the guy next to you, and you will be rewarded. You really will. So I mean, that's what we're trying to like kind of make sure that each kid understands a little bit more. And it's a challenge.
Of course it is.
Obviously.
I mean, I think what you guys are doing is so nice too, though, because if all we're doing is encouraging kids who in this travel baseball world today already are going to be like kind of focused on themselves to no fault of their own. I mean, just like the ranking component, you know, the hype is at a level that it never was when we were growing up. And so I think naturally, without people looking at it any other way, they're going to be that way.
Yep.
And so that's where I think it's so important to remind players about the team side, especially for you who saw what it was like in pro ball and how that gets stripped away immediately anyways. Yep. So why not encourage guys and teach them that now? And by the way, as we're talking about these pro organizations, like, do we think a major league organization wants to draft a selfish player or a player that wants to help his team? Player that wants to help his team.
For sure.
Why is that?
I will say, I think it's so much harder on these kids now because the travel ball at a young age, where travel ball, I truly believe this, you start taking kids out of their youth program, and all these parents say that's not good enough competition and this and that. Your kid, what matters early on is the fact that parents are playing and practicing with their kids, and then they're going out and competing. It doesn't matter about the level that they face when they're 8 years old. It doesn't. Like a kid, if he loves it, loves the game, and the parents are willing to work with him, and you know people are willing to invest time in him, he's going to be as good as he possibly could be. Now, that being said, it's so hard because at a younger age, when these kids start doing that, all these families have to stop everything they're doing. Mm-hmm. Number one, they got the financial side of it. Like kids just don't understand how much money and time it costs these parents. And then like these families all have to stop their lives to go to these travel baseball tournaments, wherever they may be, Sanford, Florida, East Cobb, Houston, Baton Rouge, like all these places, which is awesome. The kids love them. Parents, I'm sure they're cool with them too. The problem is it starts showing these kids that everything revolves around them at a younger age, and they truly haven't earned it. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's just be real. Then you mix in the social media side of things, which is terrifying. Like these kids have so much that shows them, and it makes all of us as baseball players and athletes insecure. I mean, you see these guys, I think I was pretty good. Well, man, if I'm seeing some shortstop out in, Colorado, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's better than me. Look at that. He's 60 times better than me. Or all these things are showing me to focus on myself individually instead of, man, work my tail off day in, day out, put the time in, and then literally play for my teammates and play the game the right way. I'm going to reach whatever I'm supposed to reach. I'm going to hit the goals that I will be able to, And so that side of it, I'm grateful. I'm grateful we grew up when we did, that there was no social media, that there wasn't all the player rankings and all that stuff. The rankings are cool. The kids love them. They do. But I think some kids get discouraged. If you're not really big and fast and, hit bombs and throw real hard at a younger age, you're obviously not going to be ranked real high. But you know as well as I do, we've been around the game for so long, those guys at a younger age that are like that, they're not always the ones that play in the big leagues and are big league all-stars. Those ones that are hungry, that stay hungry. Now, if those kids stay hungry the whole time, yeah, they will be. But a lot of them don't. And then those undersized guys, or those guys who maybe haven't hit puberty until later on, those guys have that edge to them that, man, if you can get the timing right with that, those are the guys that know how to work and know how to play with a chip on their shoulder, and it is special when it all comes together.
Well, when I think about a guy like Evan Longoria, and I oftentimes tell this story, I went to Long Beach State when he was there, and, thinking about him who, wasn't drafted out of high school, right? Really didn't have much of an opportunity, goes to a junior college, then goes to Long Beach State and becomes the 3rd overall pick. And where I get excited is I think so many kids, especially today with the rankings, they're 13 and they're thinking, oh man, I'm already behind.
Yep.
And it's like, whoa, slow down. And I get nervous for families who, at such a young age, it's already, we need to do more. At 10 years old, we have to get him with the right trainer. We got to get him with the right hitting coach. I don't want him to play multiple sports. It needs to be year-round. I just get nervous because, as we know, if you're really good enough to get there, like if you really have the tools and you should be a college baseball player or a pro baseball player, I don't care if it's at 13, 15, 18, you could literally start playing the game at 17 years old. Funny enough, you're going to find a way to show everybody that you're tooled up and you can play at the next level. Part of this podcast is really a matter of, I want to give families information. I want to give them the ability to think about their own situation in a different way and provide them with resources. And I guess if there's one message, it's like, slow down, right? Everything's going to be fine.
It's hard. As a parent, we love our kids so much. You want to do everything. And if you see these other kids that, your kid's age that are going and doing this, you're worried your kid's going to get left behind. And it's all out of love. There's no fault to a parent, but I'm with you. Like, make the priorities what they need to be. Like, put God first. Put that faith first. Put family next. And then the other stuff. If your kid's passionate about baseball, push him. But then there's a time my dad would look at us, say, put the ball and glove away.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, no. And he'd be like, hey, go grab the football. And we just played 2-on-2 football in the backyard all the time. And then I'd forget about it. Next thing I know, he'd come out with a fungo bat and go, hey, it's time to get going. I'm like, completely forgot about baseball. This is awesome. And man, I loved it. It kept it fresh for me. I do hate that. I wish the sports, I don't have the answers. I'm not that guy who, is just pointing out all the things that are wrong, but I wish the sports could work together, especially at the high school level, and help encourage athletes to be athletes. If you gave us 2 kids that were equal on ability, one of them plays football as well, the other one's just single sport baseball, we're going to choose the football player because they're going to be a more well-rounded athlete. In football, there's some scary parts to it, but there's some beautiful parts of football. Basketball, the same thing. I'm just picking the major sports, but I mean, I do want kids to still be kids and parents to be able to just don't freak out. Don't get caught up in the short term. See the big picture. If your kid is meant to play high school baseball, college baseball, professional baseball, as long as he works, he's going to get there.
Yeah.
And he's got the ability, the God-given ability, and he works at it, masters his craft, he will get there. No matter if you play on this select travel team at 9 years old or if you don't, if you just played city ball and played with some kids that have never put on a glove, it's probably going to be good for your kid to be around those guys, to learn how to lead them and try to help them. That was some of my biggest learning moments of my life. My dad would, if he ever looked at me and said, you ride with me, after a game, I could have gone 4-4 with a couple jacks. And I'm like, oh yeah. I get in there and then him just go off on me. Because when the right fielder dropped the pop-up, I held my hands out and tried to show him up. And legitimately tell me he's proud of me because my team was down by 6 in the last inning and I'm still diving for balls and trying and running out ground balls. And I mean, my brain was a pretzel, but those things taught me more than anything. And that goes back to that foundation of what I'm so grateful for, of just, them teaching me right from wrong and what was important and what wasn't.
Do you have, as you reflect back on your career as a player, do you have any regrets?
I do have some stuff. I wish I would have had a little more of a plan on the weight room side of things. I was always a weight room guy, but then I got scared because, I had a shoulder surgery and then didn't want to get too big. I mean, I don't have long limbs. I didn't want to look like I was playing shortstop with alligator arms. I didn't, but I didn't have like a lot of the knowledge that they had. But I mean, that's not a regret. That just wasn't really out there at the time. I think the only thing, going back to what I said, I wish I could have been able to, if I went back and played now, and what I tell guys now is like, I know you're out there and you're told you got to perform in pro ball, but man, if you will play the game for that scoreboard and your teammates around you, no matter how hard it is, even if those guys are selfish, if you will play for your teammates and the people around you, you will enjoy the game more, and I guarantee you'll reach what you deserve to reach, whether that be at AA, AAA, or the big leagues. But you'll actually be able to be proud of what that's probably the only regret. I got to where it was just, man, after a game, I knew if we won or lost, but it didn't really matter that much. And I hate to say that, it kills me.
It almost, at the next level, it breeds it in a sense, because you're surrounded by other guys who, and funny enough, like if you're competing, let's just say against another shortstop, right? And you're playing that day and you go 4 for 4. It's like you can sense that guy's like, oh no, like he's not rooting for you to have success.
Yeah.
And when you start to experience that, it's like, oh man, this is different.
I never felt like I was ever rooting against anybody. I mean, I could probably think to some times where I was like, man, it'd be kind of cool if I could, get a couple hits and maybe get my average closer to this guy that I'm competing against. But that is hard, and that it never works out. If you're ever rooting against somebody, man, you're not. It's not good. You'll never be rewarded for that.
Not
ever.
good. All right, so this is what I want to leave people with. If you were talking to a parent who maybe they're looking for a travel baseball organization and they have a call set up with a coach, what's one question that you would encourage them to ask?
I don't know that I would, as far as asking a question, I mean, I would say more do your due diligence on your own before you get on that phone call. Ask around to people who love the organization and people that hate it. And, go watch the way the organization, handles themselves at games, how coaches handle themselves. Are they the coaches that want all the attention? The coaches that are going to be screaming at the umpires? Are they going to demand that if a kid spikes his helmet, that he comes out of the game? Or are they going to let guys not play the game the right way? All those things, I would say if you go and get your eyes on it yourself. But I think ultimately it's about a fit. What's important to you? Like if you're more of a status person and it's all about just a certain organization having that, just so people on the internet will think, hey, that kid plays for so-and-so, they must be good. Or if you're truly doing it for the right reason of, hey, this is the best situation to help our kid get better and challenge him and make him act right and make him play the game the right way, then I think that's what I would say to do. I wouldn't. And it's got to work out for your family too.
Sure.
I mean, we're at different ages. Like, if you have I have 4 kids. We can't just stop our life for one kid. So, if it's somebody that's going to be playing week-long tournaments over and over and over again,
make sure.
I wouldn't be able to do it. So, I don't think there's one certain question. I would say do your due diligence beforehand. Figure out what's important to you. Talk as a family.
Right.
Talk as a family. Mom and dad, and then bring player in. And talk as a family and talk about what do we want to get out of this spring, this summer with this team? What's the most important at this point in time? And it can't be recruiting.
Yeah.
Recruiting at 16 and 17, mainly 17 now, that makes the most sense. But all the other stuff beforehand, it needs to be about development.
Yes.
And it needs to be about the things that are going to push your kid to focus day in and day out on how can I get better each day.
I love it. Bro, this is great.
Yeah, man. Enjoyed it.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's awesome.